What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video today, and in this video we are doing the 62nd installment of Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing my Aeroclassics 1:400 scale Delta Airlines Douglas DC-9-50. This is another model that I sometimes forget that I have in my collection, which is a bit surprising considering how rare this thing is and how prized it is for my collection, especially for my retro FSD fleet, since I have used it once in a 2009 airport update, which is not really retro, it's more modern classic at this point. But as I've talked about before, I really want to dive into the early 2010s since we're kind of distant from it now. I know that's crazy to think about, but that's how it is. Time has certainly flown, and this aircraft certainly in the past now. I picked up this model at the same time as last week's model that we reviewed, the United 737-300 Blue Tulip by Gemini Jets, and that is also another big retro FSD model. I got this Christmas of 2022. So we start off here with the box, which is just a blank blue box, really not too much to report on, but you do have a little 1:400 scale text right there, along with a cutout to see the plastic cradle. On the bottom, there is a little identification thing for the model, as you've got the Delta logo, American flag, registration, and part of the tail design. Nothing on this side minus Waffle's database sticker, and then the other two sides are just blank. On the back, you've got your standard regulatory, that was not meant to happen, standard regulatory information for adult collectible models, choking hazard for small parts and all that, so... Unfortunately, this model arrived broken. I don't know if you have not seen that massive unboxing. For one, go check it out at some point. It is a few years old now, but I'm still really proud of how that one turned out. But when I unboxed this model, one of the landing gear was snapped off, and one of the horizontal stabilizers was also detached. So quite unfortunate that the model arrived broken, but thankfully I was able to fix it up, and it looks good as new. Still looks weird seeing a current livery on an aircraft as old as this DC-9 right here. It is just really interesting to see something like that. But we'll go ahead and get started with the review. Bring that a little closer there. So here we go. Starting off, we've got the nose cone, which is a bit pointy. That's how the Aeroclassics DC-9-50 mold usually is. Cockpit windows up here. You got the nose gear door. Sky Team logo, along with a little tiny one just behind the L1 door. We move into the very tiny Delta titles. And one of the big key differences between this and the MD-88 was that the Delta titles, they were much larger on the MD-88 because I can't imagine that a lot of normal travelers, those that are not aviation enthusiasts and don't really know the differences between aircraft type, they could easily tell the difference between a DC-9-50 and an MD-88, which, you know, both aircraft really old and not a lot of average travelers would want to fly on it, but it was definitely a sad time when Delta retired these DC-9s because they were the last airline in the U.S., passenger airline in the U.S., to operate these things on regularly scheduled services. We move towards the back. You got some panel details down there. Two little overwing exits right there, and it looks like a little bit of a paint chipping on the landing gear door there. I did not notice that. I think that was the one that was detached, so that might be more of the glue doing damage to the paint rather than something that was from the fact that the landing gear came off. Then we have the American flag and the registration, November 787, November Charlie. So that November Charlie suffix would indicate that it is an ex-North Central airframe, but it actually isn't, and I'll talk more about that a little later. Very lovely engines right here, and then the Delta tail, which is a little dark, but not hugely noticeable. And then the little fleet code printed up there as well, which is 9878. On the other side of the aircraft, not too much to report on here, except maybe a smaller R1 door right there. A little bit of paint rubbed off there, but oh well. One little luggage door right there, and then the second one just underneath the engine, and then the look at the Delta Airlines tail. Again, very lovely model. I know a guy who really loves this type of aircraft. Bottom of the aircraft, no Delta belly since this was operative prior to Delta introducing it, so it's just a blank navy blue belly, but you do have a stand hole under there. And then the top of the aircraft with just the beacon light and the overwing exit markings on the wings. Very nice model from Aeroclassics, and I'm super happy to have this. They made this back in March of 2015, so this model is approaching 10 years old itself. But the aircraft is much older than that, and we'll take a look at that with the real-life aircraft's history. I could not find a first flight date once again, but this aircraft was originally intended for North Central, as they had placed a decently large order for the stretched DC-9-50. They did get multiple of them before they merged with Southern Airways to form Republic Airlines, so Republic took up this airframe in April of 1981. And I should mention that starting after November 777 November Charlie, that was the last DC-9 aircraft, the last ever aircraft to be delivered to North Central. All the aircraft from November 778 November Charlie onward, those were all taken up by Republic. So this one is 9 numbers ahead of 778, so obviously taken up by Republic. So delivered to them in April of 1981. She went to Northwest in October of 1986, and then went to Delta in October 2008. She did, of course, wear the Delta livery not long after the Delta-Northwest merger. She was retired from service and put into storage in 2014. Unfortunately, she has since been scrapped. And before I end the video here, too, I do like to talk about the DC-9-50s that Delta operated and how there's a couple of them left. Obviously, you have the one down in Atlanta at the Delta Flight Museum, November 675 Mike Charlie, which is not part of the same family tree that the other DC-9s were a part of. This was actually operated by Muse Air. She also flew for Austrian, Transstar, Eastern, and Continental prior to Northwest and Delta. So she's preserved down there at the Delta Flight Museum. And then for other ex-North Central or ex-Delta DC-9s, whatever you want to go with, November 782 November Charlie, that one also not operated by North Central and taken up by Republic. That aircraft is sitting at the Thief River Falls Airport. I think there is a college up there that is using it for like training purposes and all that, if I remember right. Yes, Northland Community and Technical College are the owners of the aircraft technically. She's been preserved there since the January 23rd of 2014. So I really do want to go up there and see that aircraft alongside the one that's down in Atlanta, which I'll be seeing for Airliners International this summer. Super excited about it. Can you believe we're already in March? This show is coming up quick. Another Delta DC-9 that's been preserved is November 767, which is an ex-North Central airframe. She is preserved at Minneapolis and is used for fire training. So if you've seen any plane spotting videos from Minneapolis filmed at Cargo Road, you will have seen that aircraft, especially some of the newer ones. But those are the only Delta DC-9-50s that have been preserved. All the others have been scrapped out for parts and all that. So a bit sad that we don't have very many of them left. And then this specific airframe, of course, was unfortunately scrapped, and she was the last in the sequence too. So no 788 November Charlie onward. So interesting to note that. But it is a very interesting aircraft for sure, and it is kind of weird, as I said, to see the current Delta livery on an aircraft as old as the Douglas DC-9, especially the stretched variant. Delta did have the DC-930s from Northwest, but none of them were ever painted into Delta colors. They did not last long into the post-Northwest days, so they were quickly retired once they reached their end of service life and scrapped. And that'll do it for this episode of Retro Reviews. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.